So it's about here somewhere where you can generally get nice shavings going. And if I drew a line
Welcome to the advisory deck, and we brought it out to a pretty special location today. As usual, I'm joined by James McGill. How are you, James?
Good, Troy, thank you.
Good to hear. We've come to a pretty funky place, which is the home of a terrific startup business, manufacturing startup business in South Australia, which is always a good news story. Here located in a backyard in suburban Prospect, and we're joined by Daniel Kerber from Kerber Cricket. How are you, Daniel?
I'm going well, thank you, Troy.
Good to hear. This is Dan's business. It is literally like Hewlett and Packard's shed in the back of Palo Alto or wherever that was.
Right.
We're in Prospect, and Dan's business, Kerber Cricket, is all about cricket bats, manufacturing cricket bats. Dan, talk us through the start of where this all came. Why are you starting a cricket bat business?
I remember it was in brief. Basically, I was getting a lot of bats from interstate.
Yep.
And I wasn't really happy with what I was getting. There was a lot of different profiles.
Because you're a cricketer?
Yeah. I played here in the first grade competition. But yeah, I was getting different profiles, and they weren't really fitting to, what I was after. And yeah, I just didn't have that confidence when I walked out to bat that, the ball's really going to fly off this. So I came home, got my little workbench out just out the front of the shed here, put the bat on there and just started working away. I had a little block plane which I used just to refine the shape a little bit. And the first few shavings, there's something about that was just, I was in awe of just taking that little bit away. So yeah, it's quite a cool sort of process now when I've learnt about it, but at the start I was just being really cautious not to do too much. And yeah.
So how long ago are we talking when this kind of began?
That would have been when I moved here, so about 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was about 16.
Okay.
Got the tools out then, and I always had that passion for woodworking as well. So.
And today here we sit with a growing range of Kerber Cricket bats and products, which you are custom making and selling to customers all around Australia, right?
Yes. Yeah. So all around Australia, sending some internationally as well, which is exciting. But yeah, it's just I'm able to deliver to the customer what I would want as a product, something that I'd be happy using, but also something, I refer to them for feedback as well. Nice. To make sure I try and capture what they're after too.
Pretty good start, right?
I mean, it is. I've just realised too, I think I gave up cricket at the end of primary school, was saying before, and I've realised maybe the reason why I wasn't any good was because I didn't have confidence in my bat.
Yes, that's what it was, James.
That was the issue. If I had a Kerber bat, I might be able to hit the actual ball. I'm curious about, I've got my boys who played cricket, probably finished about 5-6 years ago. We used to go down to one of the cricket shops in Adelaide, and every year almost buy a bat, and you walk into the shop there, and I love buying sporting gear, so it's kind of a fun experience, but there's 50, 60 bats you can choose from the $80 real junior stuff through to things that cost $600, $700, $800, right? It can be expensive. Why do they come to you? What's it about? Is it literally because people don't want the stock standard cricket bat that everyone else in the team has got? They want something that's unique, that's crafted for them. Why do they come to you as opposed to one of the mass, globally recognised brands that you can buy from a shop off the shelf?
That's a good question. I think there's probably two ways to look at that, and one is they're after a unique shape. Like I said before, I can do the scoops, or I can replicate bats.
So really customised.
Yeah, you have an old favourite bat which you love. You want to keep getting that bat even once it's past its use by date. So yeah, that's something that I can do. The other reason is, for the budget that you have when you go into a sports shop, usually what you pay for is what you get. So you spend the extra money, you get a pretty good quality bat. You spend around $400 or $500, you're probably down the lower end, and you don't actually get that performance out of the bat. So one of the things that I make sure is with my process in the manufacturing stage is that the pressing's done well, whatever grade it is. So that you have a big wide sweet spot and that you'll get that performance when you need it, no matter
Right.
what grade of bat you buy.
Okay. So it's a market. You're after the market of the real cricket enthusiast, someone who's playing grade cricket
Yep.
or a similar level of competition, who are buying a bat. How often does your bat last, or a bat last?
Usually Premier cricketers probably have 2 or 3 bats in the kit at any time. Professional cricketers, state cricketers, international probably have 5 plus. Because they're playing a lot more, they're hitting a lot more balls. Bats will break. It's a soft willow. It's a soft product, so that's why the pressing's got to be done well. If it's pressed too hard, you won't get that performance. If it's pressed too soft, you'll get dense, and it'll take a longer time to compress and get that performance. So it's a real fine balance, but the guys in India know what they're doing. So,
So
makes my job
customised
easy.
bats, but globally there's thousands, tens of thousands of people who are potentially customers for you. Is that sort of the
Yeah.
because it's a big industry, right? Across the
Absolutely.
subcontinent and UK and Australia. So while it might seem, if you're not in the industry, it's the classic case I think of, if you're not in the industry, if you don't know cricket, you might go, well, how could you make a living out of making cricket bats?
Yeah.
Because that's just how many people they buy. But you're
Yeah.
talking about probably hundreds in South Australia,
Yeah.
thousands in Australia, tens of thousands around the world who are enthusiasts
Yep.
who want something different, special, consistent,
Yes.
unique.
Absolutely.
So you've got a clear niche, and that's what you're after.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
I think what's really interesting is you're building not just terrific custom-made bats, but the brand that's kind of going with that as
Yeah.
well. In Kerber Cricket, we're sort of sitting here in Dan's a shop where you're expanding your product lines out over time. You've got gloves and pads and bags for complete kind of kits and things as well. There's not a bat with a wide enough sweet spot on the planet for me, unfortunately. But what I'm kind of interested in is from starting as a 16-year-old kid just playing around with a hand plane on a bat going, oh, this is kind of fun, to now building a business. What are a couple of things that you've learned, maybe the hard way or you're still learning? What's kind of coming to the surface going, God, I had no idea that I'd have to deal with those kind of things when I got going?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One is just the time.
Yeah.
Everything takes time, and you always need to allow more time, whether it's completing customers' orders. Something will pop up. You think you can get it by that date, and something will pop up, and then you've got to allow a few extra hours or days. Another one is just building the brand. That takes time. Getting those customers and loyal clients on board. I think when I started I was a bit naive, but I think that's like most business owners, you've got to be, otherwise you probably
You
wouldn't get
wouldn't
into it.
start. Spot on.
So true, isn't it?
So I think that's, I had that drive. I'm a little bit more introverted personally, so being here working intimately with the bat is quite a cool thing. Not having someone above you going, you need to do this, you need to do that. You can sort of just learn at your own pace, which is quite cool, I think. But I think one of the main things is just working with the customer. And it's not just about you selling a product. You're selling quite a unique thing for them. You've got to sometimes put yourself in their shoes and go, should they be buying this bat? Like, do they really want to, or do they need a lower? Like, you've got to sort of work with them. And also, it's not just about the product as well. It's about their story and finding more about them and what makes them tick, and creating that relationship.
Doesn't matter if you're a small backyard cricket bat manufacturer or a very large multinational, that putting the customer in the heart of every decision you make, it doesn't change, does it?
It doesn't, and I'm curious about how do you find those customers? You know who they are, and in a way you know that they're playing cricket on a Saturday or Sunday. They're in one of 20 clubs around the metro area, whatever it might be. But how do you actually get to them? How do they find you? And what makes them want to buy this bat rather than go to the local cricket shop and buy something from there? What's that relationship like?
Yeah, a lot of it's so I do a lot of my promoting through social media, but it's not just about the products, putting it up there in front of their face, because you look at a cricket bat and they all look the same. It's about the education for me. So like I was explaining before about the pressing of the bat and what makes these cricket bats so unique and so powerful, no matter what grade you buy. So there's always something for someone. And a lot of them come from bad experiences from shop bought bats. They say, oh, the middle was really small, or the pickup was bad, like I just didn't like it. And then they come to me and we can really tailor something that they walk out with a smile on their face and and love what they.
So it's a satisfaction guarantee, customised for them.
Absolutely.
They
Yeah.
they know what they want, so they'll explain to you what they want.
Yeah.
What happens if you don't make a bat that meets what they want? How do you know that you've made the bat that they want?
Mhm.
What's your testing and your quality control sort of
Yeah.
process? And then if they take it away and they don't like it, how do you manage that?
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll always update the customer every process, every step of the way. So I'm shaping the bat. This one's almost done, but this is for a customer over in Queensland, so he can't get here at the moment. So I'm taking photos. You know, do you like this profile? It's at this weight. I'm testing the pickup. I think it's pretty good. You know, always talking to them, whether they're in the workshop or interstate or overseas. And secondly, yeah, if they get the bat and it's not quite how they like it, we send it back and we refine it to how they want it, at no charge, because it's obviously, you know, my mistake. So
And your name's on the bat.
exactly, yeah. You want to make sure that, you know, every bat that I send out of this workshop, I'd be happy using, and if I'm not, I always find a way to make sure the customer's happy, whether that's refining it or totally making a new one.
One of the challenges I know you've had to wrestle with is supply chain, is securing product. You know, it's a tricky time. I know you source some of your product via India, challenges with supply chain in India, English willow, etc. What have you learnt about supply chain management, about sort of, you know, forecasting, that you're thinking, righto, here's what I have to bear in mind as I take the next step forward in this business?
Yeah, it was quite an interesting sort of experience the first year I ordered things. Just being that so naive to everything, you know, you're not sure what you can design and what you can buy, you know, you're not sure about the quality of the product. And so, I was basically going in a bit blind there, not sure how much gear I'd actually need. And I'm still trying to work out that balance, because, you know, some things shift quicker than others.
Yes.
And you got to really work on that. So with the unfortunate, you know, circumstance with India at the moment, I'm looking elsewhere, looking to Pakistan, and testing those waters, sampling a few products. But my main suppliers, you know, the main connection I'm going to keep holding. You know, he's producing some really good stuff and working well with me, and that's a really strong relationship I value. So I'm going to, you know, they're working at reduced capacity, but I think, I can, I'll be able to get some things in eventually.
Absolutely.
But it does take time, and that's what I was saying before. You just got to allow more time. Something always pops up, and with COVID, I always compared like this last season to my first, where I was setting up the business and things were a little bit rushed towards the start of the season. I didn't have gear in time, and then COVID last year happened, and my gear was supposed to arrive a month out of the season, and I only got my last order in February. So I've had those tough sort of challenges straight away, and then, you know, dealing with the customer who's waiting, you know, where's my gear? You know, being able to keep in contact with them and sustaining that relationship. It's really important.
You're describing what so many startup companies go through. Well, I think people get very focused on the product. In this case, the love of crafting something, the product that you get to the customer, and as you go through this process of getting going, you realise there's all these other things that are required that you go, well, people don't really value all of that, but you need all of that to make the product something you get to the customer. So there are those challenges. What you're describing to me, and what I'm hearing is people come to you because they want something unique. It's almost if you're a bat lover, if you're a cricket lover, you're wanting a work of art. Like that's really what it's something where you go, I want to walk out there with something that's a bit unique.
And it's the experience every time it's in my hand.
It's doing the job that I want, because I'm here to actually, I'm taking this pretty seriously, which is why I've got a customised bat. And I play a lot of cricket. I've been playing it. I guess most of your customers are probably mid to late teens and more likely 20s and 30s. So they're spending a bit of money on the bat. You spoke about social media before and getting to those customers. Do you do something for existing customers that incentivises them to refer you to someone else in their team to sort of try and grow by word of mouth?
Yeah, so I have a few ambassadors on board now. So when I started a couple of years ago, I only had a handful, and now I'm up to 30. So I've sort of grown pretty quickly, got a few more around Australia. I've had some inquiries from overseas. People are really passionate about what I do, and I think it's because, you know, it's Australian made, it's handcrafted, it's something unique about it. It's an old school sort of way about making a bat, and those ambassadors go out and sell my product pretty much through their use. So they perform, people talk about it, always in the changing room. Someone opens their kit bag, they've got a new bat, everyone flocks to them.
Okay.
So there's something about that as well. But also I have ambassador discount codes, so they can refer onto friends and whatnot, who can then buy through me, which is helpful.
So how do you choose your ambassadors? It sounds like a pretty important piece of what you're doing. How do you choose them? What makes them an ambassador in their eyes? What makes them an ambassador? Without giving away the secrets, is it about discounted bats or additional bats, or there's something else you do for them to keep them engaged?
Yeah, so it's discounted cricket gear, depending on their need of supply, what they need for their game day. But then it's also the level of cricket that they're playing. So some of my ambassadors are state level cricketers, so they need a lot more gear, and we work out that agreement, as well as I've had an international female cricketer last season who played. So that it's all about spreading that word. Once the ambassador gets that gear, they're passionate about the product, they're passionate about the brand. So it's sort of expected that they want to get out there and sell it to people, show off how good it is.
Have you had your cricket bats on TV with the Sheffield Shield? Have you had that yet?
Yeah, so...
What was that like watching that happen?
The first time it was in a Big Bash game.
Dad, get her on the TV!
Absolutely, yeah. We were watching, hoping a few wickets would fall because this batter was batting down the order a little bit. Yeah, he finally got a couple overs and managed to hit a boundary. And it was a surreal feeling after going to so many games of cricket. And being involved with this, and now I'm in contact with player managers, players, state players come to me to get repairs. It's quite a cool sort of thing.
So it's the hard grind from 2-3 years ago of starting by doing your own thing, and then you just keep on going. Literally it's whittling away, isn't it? It's just every day you get up and you do something else. And before you know it,
Well, I guess that brings us to growth ambitions, and we're sort of sitting here in this terrific space. I know you love nothing more than being in this shed with a tool in your hand, shaping a beautiful piece of willow. There comes that point in time though where you go, wow, where do I go next, and how do I grow beyond here? I know you don't necessarily have all the answers yet, but what are you sort of thinking about? What sort of things are you considering?
I've got a few sort of ideas. The brand's growing pretty quickly, and after changing the branding a little bit, mainly with the sticker design, again referring to that customer feedback, getting something a little bit more professional, something a little bit more handcrafted, just looking that little bit more slick, helped grow the brand a little bit, I think. And just expanding it into my coaching. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching, and I've also teamed up with the cricket club to do academies and that sort of thing, clinics. So
You've got a relationship with a school in Victoria as well.
So I've got another opportunity coming up there, which is quite unique, being able to sponsor possibly the association. So being an ex-cricketer there, they're sort of keen to help me out. So what I've also learned is that network. You never know who knows who, and that's why when the first few customers were coming into the workshop, it was always about selling a product, and then I quickly learned after a conversation that they know this person, or they could help me here, and it just grows word of mouth that way. But it also helps me develop my brand, because you never know who's going to be able to you can lean on to help you.
James, you're right. It doesn't matter that it's a cricket bat and wood shavings in a back shed. The lessons that Dan's talking about, the path that Dan's taking, the challenges that Dan's learning very quickly, and Lord, I wish I'd had that kind of thinking and wisdom at age 21, 22. It's not unique to this business. It's the story of virtually every startup, right?
It is. We do a lot of work with startups, and when people are looking for money, they're talking to angel investors or venture capitals and saying, I've got a great idea, and if we had some money we can make something really special. We go, well, firstly do something first, and what you've done is you've actually taken the risk and you've spent some time, your money and effort to create what we're sitting in here. The second, and you touched on it just before, it's having the knowledge from within the industry. And we often see people who are outside an industry and they say, I can do something here, and we go, well, you don't have the knowledge, the networks, the relationships, and so much of getting a business off the ground early is coming from a point where you can see an opportunity, which you've seen. You've got a name and a reputation already because you've been there, whether you're doing it at a test selector level for Australian cricket or coming out of grade cricket, people know you, and they go, well, that makes sense. And if you've done something, you understand what we're talking about. Whereas if I was doing this, I'd go, well, I wouldn't have a clue where to start. I might see an opportunity for a niche bat and go, well, if if you understand, if you love cricket, I don't want to go and buy the Gray Nichols great bats, but everyone's got them. So I don't want that. I want something unique to me, but I wouldn't have a clue where to start.
No.
And I'm not going to break into the industry because no one's going to trust me. I've got no credibility.
No.
You've got that. So I think that's a really good insight for people who are thinking about where do they start a new industry, a new company. You start where you know, right? You start where you've got a passion. I think it's what you described first, is you love doing it. You love the process of making it. Everything else that goes on around what you're doing has to be done. But in the end of the day, you want that to go out with your name on it. And if someone isn't happy, they send it back and you fix it. Right? And and the challenge of that is it's hard to scale. But I guess you don't want to be making 40,000 bats a year because that's not what you love doing. You've got to figure out how do you make 4,000 bats a year, but charge a premium for them, and people are happy to pay that premium because they go, I want that bat. That's the model there.
I think we're so quick to jump to that race for let's find the god of scale and figure out how to do that first. You know what? Spend some time doing exactly what you're doing. What I love spending time with you, Dan, is other than looking at the passion in your eyes when you hold onto a piece of willow that I don't necessarily understand, but I can see that you are just absolutely, into this, and you've shared with me the stories of your first cricket bats, and just being able to translate that sort of experience to a customer, and bit by bit you're bootstrapping your way through this as well. I think as a foundation piece, and yes, absolutely, there are scale questions to sort of figure out as we go, but to set that foundation, 30 ambassadors, relationships in the industry, starting to see the brand appear on TV every so often, expanding the range out, developing a sense of loyalty to quality suppliers, but not being afraid to explore what else is out there, because sustainability of supply in difficult circumstances is a necessity for any business. They're fundamental lessons that apply to any business.
They are, and I gotta say, you're a lot more advanced in a lot of your thinking than business owners who have been around doing for 20, 30 years, and you're very clear focus on what you want to do, and you're not getting distracted by a lot of other noise. It's fantastic. It's inspiring. It's really good.
We wish you every success, mate, and we really appreciate you coming and spending a bit of time talking to us on the advisory deck. I've got your terrific cup here. We've got the Bradman here as well, so I'd metaphorically raise a bat to your future success, and I think you'll do really, really well. So.
Thanks very much, guys. Cheers.
Ladies and gents, thanks for joining us here in Prospect in this wonderful setting on the advisory deck.